This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so what are we doing today is let's look at Netezza database level backups, Netezza host level backups, of course, host level and database level restores. So these are three major things: DB level, another one is host level, third one is schema or a user level backups and restores. Before I start this, the basic thing to remember is in Netezza, it's not possible to do a point-in-time recovery because we don't have transactional logs here. When we don't have a transactional log, half of the backup and restore complications goes away.
Yeah, there is no roll forward.
No, there is no roll forward. Yeah. So when we talk about a DB level backups, the command is ng backup to backup, and the command to restore is ng restore. And there are only three level DB level backups possible. One is full, of course. Another one is differential. Another one is cumulative. It is like differential is like incremental delta. So one example is if you have taken full backup on Sunday, differentials you can take it on Monday, Tuesday, like that. Just only the delta will be copied. So if I take a full backup, since we don't have a concept of transaction log backups, it's always advised in Netezza environment to do a backup every day. It may not be a full backup, but at least let's say you do a differential backup. So that in case of catastrophe, at least you have very small data loss, because the only way the data gets into a data warehouse is through overnight ETLs or through micro ETLs that run during the daytime. Other than that, we don't ad hocly go and update any record in a data warehouse in a stable environments, pretty much at least. So let's say if a crash happened here, you can get the data till Wednesday, and on top of Wednesday you just have to run your ETL again by putting fetch date to current date, sys date minus 1 day or a 2 day, and you need to reprocess that. But how often you kind of lose that kind of data is very rare. So but still, in worst case, if something happens between Wednesday and Thursday, right, if you restore it till Wednesday, um, and you just rerun the ETLs that ran after Wednesday. Now when we come to host level, we have a host level, of course, backup, of course, restore. The command is ng host backup. The command is ng host restore. It pretty much copies this directory called ng database. When we talk about host level backups, it's a base directory backup. So schema or user backups are taken using ng backup only, but with certain options. Okay, let's first explore DB level backup. So what I'll do as part of this is I'll create a new database, fresh database. Then I'll start inserting some data into it. Then we'll take a full backup, differential backups, and we'll also try to do a cumulative backup, right? Let's say here I've taken a cumulative. Then we'll drop the database. Then we'll try to restore it and see what options we have. Now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a database called testdb. Then I'm going to create a table called T1. Let's do these 4 steps here. Let me go ahead and create a database. I created a testdb database. Let me create this table and insert a row. Okay, I need to connect to testdb. Right? I have the data. Now let me come back to the command prompt. Let me show you what are the options available with ng backup command. Like any other command, you have -h for help, -v or -rev for version, host, on what host we are running this Netezza backup, and show me whichever the object it is backing up. That's the option for verbose. That's the thing you will get out of verbose. Similarly, which database you want us to back up. See here, backup has to happen at the database level. Even though it is a single instance multiple database architecture, you cannot take an instance level backup here. That means all database backups in one shot in one command is not possible. Right? You still have to do a database by database backup. And which directory you want me to place this backup? If I want to share the database backups across multiple directories, I can give a multiple directories. I can do a comma separated, or I can put all of them in a single file, and I can give file as an input. So if I give 3 different directories from 3 different file systems, then I can achieve some parallelism. But in that case, I have to give streams option here. If I'm talking about a 3 terabyte database, and I want to store 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte, or near to that in a separate file systems, then I can give multiple streams, and I should be able to give multiple file systems there as an input. I can also take database backup directly to some third-party connectors. In that case, I need to configure them here. Am I taking the differential backup? That's incremental backup or a cumulative. So the major difference between differential and cumulative is differential is the changes or differences happened from the previous backup. That previous backup can be a full backup or a differential or a cumulative. Let me show you that in a notepad here. When I say differential on Monday, the changes happened from Sunday to Monday. When I say differential on Tuesday, the changes happened from Monday to Tuesday. But whereas when I say cumulative on Wednesday, the reference point or starting point for cumulative is always full backup. All the changes happened from previous full backup. I will be showing you this as part of an exercise today. So under globals, if you want to back up global objects like users are global objects here. The permissions you given in system database are global permissions. Which is a user and password that is running this backup command. Hyphen no data, sometimes you just want a DDL, you don't want data. For some performance testing purposes, you want to really see how much time backup is going to run. It's not going to run actually, but it unloads the data but immediately removes it. Hyphen history command will show the backup history, when the backup was happened and all that history that we will see anyway. You can give a secret key while taking the backup. So the same secret key is needed for restore. Backup set ID. Every backup you take has a unique ID. That backup set ID is the time in GMT. That I will show you. The GMT time is what you see as a backup set ID. Now let's first proceed and take a database backup of the test DB we created. But before that, let me create a directory in temp backups. Now this is a directory where we are going to store our backups for the exercise that we are going to do now. Now the command is very simple. The order is not important here. ng backup. Show me on the screen what is happening. Sorry. The database name is testdb. User is admin. His password. See, if you see, there is no option for full here. If you don't say anything, by default it takes a full backup. So another important thing to give is where we want to store this backup. That's it. So you are seeing on the screen this because you gave a verbose option here. So backup of the database testdb completed successfully. Each backup has a unique backup set ID. So this is the unique backup set ID. But this unique backup set ID is very easy to understand. 2019 9 September 26 10359 10336 is when the backup started. So the backup set ID is the time in GMT standard. Okay, and we have written this backup to temp backups directory. So if I go to the temp backups directory, here backup file is not just a single file. An important thing to remember here, the backup is stored as an hierarchy. For example, within these temp backups, it creates a directory called Netezza. Within this Netezza, it creates a directory called Netezza again. This is the host name. This is the host name, as well as this is actually the backup host name. I don't know if you remember. If you go to ngkit ng data config, the backup host name. Remember during one of the sessions I spoke, there are three important files here under ng data config. The backup host name, whatever the directory you are seeing here comes from this input. Never mind. So under temp backups is what we gave at a high level. Within this, it looks for a directory with Netezza capital N. Within capital Netezza, it looks for a directory with the host name. Within host name, it created a directory called testdb because that's the database name. Within testdb, it created a directory with the timestamp. Within that, it created one here. One stands for this is the first sequence in this backup. If I go ahead and take differential or cumulative, they are 2, 3, 4, the successive increments. Now the one meaning here full, within that full you see two subdirectories again. One is metadata, which is an XML file, and data, which is an external format in a binary format file. If I go to MD, you see the schema.xml. If you go to data, you see 212477 is the table ID for T1 table. You can see the data, but you cannot make anything out of it because that's in a binary format. Now, in summary, here so far, whatever the high-level directory we specify, Netezza itself formulates specific directory structure. Netezza with capital N, host name, database name. If let's say you have another database backup, it creates one directory in parallel here. If you take another backup for testdb, you might get a different timestamp here. So you get one more directory in parallel here. That way it is easy maintenance for Netezza backups. If you take differential now, it makes two differential. Now if you want to see the history of the backups you have taken, -history is a command that will show you your backup history. Whenever a backup runs, it generates a backup log. Like I said, each one is a specific process ID here, and each process has its own directory under log, and each directory will generate its own log file. So you can quickly come back here and see what are the arguments given and what kind of sorry, not arguments, what, yeah, here you can see the command, and you can see where it has written the backups. So far, any questions? The critical thing to understand here is this directory structure. If you can understand this directory structure, it's easy. If I repeat one more time, whatever the directory you specify within the directory, Netezza with capital N, host name, database name, timestamp, increment, one is always full, and within this you have metadata and data. Now let's go ahead and insert another record into the table and take full backup one more time. Insert into T1 values before second full backup, right? Now let me exit from here and run the same backup command. Verbose db test db hyphen dir backups user admin password. Now if you notice here, it generated a different timestamp. It's expected, right? Now it has run at a separate GMT time altogether. Now 110. I think the previous one is 13. Now it's at 110. Now if I go back here and show you the hierarchy, it is a hostname, test database. Under test database, now you see two different directories, each one for different full backups. If you go under this, you would also see one full, pretty much the same hierarchy. Now I'm going two more steps further here, and I'll do create differential backups. Now let me log in. So let me put that in a notepad here. What I've done here, now I have taken a full backup. Now I inserted one more record here before second full backup. Taken second full backup. Now what I'm doing is insert into T1 values before first differential. Now all I got to do is with ng backup command, I have to give an option called diff, saying that I have to take changes happened from previous backup. Now when I say changes happened from the previous backup comes with this latest timestamp, right? Because you cannot take a differential backup without a full backup. At underlying, you need a full backup. That's when your differential or cumulative makes sense. Now the interesting thing to note is, note this 11039, right? Hyphen differential. If you note the timestamp or a backup set ID these guys will use is same 11039. Because the differentials are cumulative, they won't generate a new timestamp because they cannot exist standalone, right? It's like child exists because of parent. The parent, this is like a parent surname, so child inherits by default, right? Okay. Now let me log in one more time and take diff backup. For second diff, let me do this and take one more differential. Even this differential will also have the same surname here. I mean the backup set ID. Now my purpose is to take in the next level cumulative backup. Before cumulative, take cumulative backup. Now after cumulative, what we'll do is before third differential. Okay. Now we are at what step? We have done till here. I have taken a full backup first. Then I have taken again full backup. Then I have taken two differentials. Now let me show you the directory hierarchy. Now if I go to temp backups, it's still Netezza with capital N. Hostname is Netezza. Under hostname still we have taken only one database backups. Now all the new backups are going with the latest timestamp. Now you see I have three subdirectories here, 1, 2 and 3. 1, if you go inside you'll see full. 2, if you go inside you'll see differential. Similarly, if you go to 3, see differential. Right? Now, if we take cumulative backup, then you see 4 and cumulative. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are sequence in the backup. So if you say ng backup hyphen history, these are the sequence numbers 1, 2, 3. Now, when you restore, the first thing that gets restored is a full backup. Let's say these get restored first. After that, it has to decide, should I go to sequence number 2, or can I jump to 3, or can I directly jump to the 4? The decision will be made based upon the sequence numbers that we will see in a restore. Now what I do is I'll log into the database one more time, and this time let's take cumulative. So I inserted a record. Is the same command with hyphen cumulative option. It still uses 11039, the timestamp ending with 11039. But if you look at the directory hierarchy, you would see 4 now, because we have just taken cumulative. Okay, now let's go ahead and take one last differential before we actually drop the database. All right, I have done this exercise now. Now I have two backup set IDs. So this is one full backup, and this is another full backup package. Okay. Now let's go ahead and take one full backup again without anything inserting again. Let's take full backup, or let's insert, so that during restore, before third full backup. Now if we notice, this will get a new backup set ID, because full will always generate a new backup set ID. What is the backup set ID here? This guy. So far, any questions?
No, we're good.
Okay. Now let me show you the history.
So the question, so
Yes, Ram.
backup set ID and the backup set ID is actually not the ID, but it is not a sequence generated, but it is based on the time, date and time stamp, right? That's not,
Yes.
and that will
Yeah.
be the same across the incrementals.
Even incrementals, yes.
Correct. So only when you take a cumulative, it's going to be different. Correct.
No. Only for
Even
full
that
it is
also,
going to.
only
Yeah,
full.
even if
Cumulative
you
or
see here,
incremental, whatever. Yeah, got it.
yeah,
Thank you.
only it changes for full. Yeah. Okay. Now this is the history available. Now let me say somebody dropped the database, or there is a reason for you to restore this in a separate environment. Then it's not just a single file you need to copy. You have to copy entire directory hierarchy. Okay? It's not ng backup, ng SQL. So the database is dropped now. So you see the way it changed the representation. It comes in brackets that databases no longer exist. But still I can see the history. Now if there is a requirement for you to restore the backup, bring testdb, these are all the backups available to you. You have backup available here, first full backup. You have a set of second full backups, and you have a third full backup. If you are not sure of anything, right, you can get where these backups get stored. You can get the information from these log files. If you are not sure of what to do, ng restore is a command. It comes up with little more options than ng backup, but let's look at those options first before I show you a practical usage. -h, -v, small and capital are self-explanatory. Database name, and from which directory you want it to be restored. If multiple directories, if you are getting it from third-party connectors, which backup set ID you want to restore. If there are multiple backup set IDs, you can explicitly specify the backup set ID. If we don't specify, it always picks up the latest backup set ID in the given directory. Now, so what is the source DB? My source DB can be test DB. My target DB, I can give it as a dev DB. It's like a renaming database during the restore. Where I have taken this backup. You might have taken this backup on a host named Netezza, but you might be trying to restore it on host named Netezza dev. The directory hierarchy has to be same. If you look at in this whole hierarchy, this is the directory you will give for restore. This is even constant whether you go to prod or a dev or a QA. The database name is going to be same, but you can give a different database name using -source DB and -db options. Another important thing you need to take care is the host name. This may be an Netezza prod host. When you are trying to restore it on a dev, you have to specify where you have taken this backup. It's going to do that internal conversions. So where you have taken the backup, what is that host name? So you can only restore a specific file or a set of files. You don't have to restore all the database if you don't require. So while restoring the tables, you can specify a specific source schema. Or while restoring the database, you can specify a set of tables that you don't want to be restored. Okay. So you can play in that increments. You can only restore till differential 1, differential 2, right? There are certain options. These are I'll show these with the example. When you are not restoring complete sequence, all the sequences in one shot, you have to log the database, because the database will be in a write mode if you don't log. Once you restored all the sequences, you have to unlock the DB so that it's open for non-read purpose. So during the database migrations, the first thing you need to do is you need to restore global objects such as users and their permissions. So sometimes you can say you don't want users or groups information. Sometimes you don't want the permissions as well. What is the secret key? How many streams you are specifying? Just restore schema without data. So by excluding some aggregate functions. Yeah, there is a concept called materialized view. So these are all various options, sub options that you can play on.
Hey
Let
Ravi,
me
quick
go ahead.
question.
Uh-huh.
Hmm, is there a way? I think earlier also I asked. Is it possible to have a specific format like ASCII? Because I've seen that the backup is creating an XML file.
Right.
Are there such options?
Yeah, I did check with my on-site counterparts, um, as well as the support, but the common answer I got is not through the ng backup tools. No, you have to depend upon these external tables. You
External
have to
table.
extract, yeah, external tables in a ASCII format.
So you can use copy, right?
Yeah, once that is done, you can use copy. Yeah.
Thank you.
No. Because when you look at the backup, ng backup gets the data in a external tables only, but in a binary format. Yeah, you have to script that in a such a way you get that external table for all tables data in a ASCII format.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Now, if you are not sure what to do here, just simply say ng restore. Let's go option by option. By default, I give verbose. I say source DB is test DB. I want it to be replaced as test DB2. My Netezza host I have taken backup is on Netezza. You don't need to give all these options. Source DB is not required when both are same. NPS host is not required when you are restoring it on the same host. So where is the directory? Backups. That's it. I don't have to give anything else. So it decides on its own which backup set ID to pick up. Since we haven't specified any backup set ID, even though I have 3 full backup set IDs, I did not specify any backup set ID explicitly, so it always picks up the latest one. So that's why it picked up the latest one. Now if I say ngsql-c-db test db2, you should see that output till third full backup. You would see everything to the latest point. But what if this is not what I want? I want to play around here that I don't want till this point, but I know I want to go only till certain point here in the sequence. I want to stop somewhere around 3 or a 4 or a 2 because of various issues in the timestamps, various issues in the environment. I don't want complete backup to be restored. What options I have? In that case, the command stays pretty much the same. I give it, let's restore it to testdb3. Here I have to say backup set. I have to give the backup set ID. Again, if I just press enter here, it starts from sequence 1, then sequence 2, then sequence 3, then sequence 5. Now this is an interesting thing to note here. Let me put it here in the notepad. Now the first thing it does by default is restore 1. After restoring 1, should it restore 2 or should it directly go to 4? What is the most logical choice after 1? It goes to 4, then 5. Because there is no point of restoring 2 and 3, right? Because those are anyway accumulated here, right? Let me show you that's happening. You can watch it here. 1. After 1, it went to 4. Why? 2 and 3 are differential, so it makes no sense. There's no point of restoring them when you can restore Wednesday backup instead of Monday, Tuesday. You have, that's the purpose of cumulative, right? It helps you to reduce the recovery time, RTO. It helps you improve RTO because number of backups you restore are less if you have a cumulative backup. Okay.
We don't need to mention anything like for the pick up this differential backup or anything like that. If we give the timestamp, it will just install the full backup and it will automatically go through the next backup. So we don't need to do anything there.
Right. You don't have to unless you want to, right? So see here in this case, I don't want, so I did not specify anything in middle. So I said it only at high level. So after 1, it restored 4. But what if I don't want to restore 4 after 1? Because 4 has some problem. I want to take this route 2 and 3. But what if I want to stop? I want to go to 2. After 2, I want to go to 3, right? But after 3, you cannot go to 4 because it makes no sense.
Right.
See, the input for 4 is not from 3. The input for 4 is from 1. So it's a dead end here. But still, that's the route I want to take. Now, what happens? How do I make this route happen here is I have to do a step-by-step restore. Now, let's go ahead and do that step-by-step restore. So let's do it into testdb4. Same backup set ID. Here I have to specify increment 1.
Yeah, and one more thing, Ravi, sorry to disturb. The database name you are changing, right? We need to change the database name if we are mentioning particular timestamp. Is that
No, no, no,
mandatory?
no, it's not mandatory, but to restore the database should not exist.
Oh, okay. So, okay, we need to drop the database before starting the restore then.
Yeah, if you are doing it in place.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You see, I said here only restore till increment 1, but it is failing. I need to use an option called here logdb true. That means after you restore till 1, the database is available now till 1, right? If you connect to testdb4, right, the database is available, but you might see a notice here that it's only available for read only. So we are locking this because if somebody is trying to insert into T1 table, says that testdb4 is only read only because it's locked by someone else. Now coming back here, I restore till 1. Okay. Now how do I proceed it to 2? Because it's like a junction to me. After 1, I can go to 4 by default, or how do I make it to 2? So now that's where you have to give another increment here. The same command, just okay, hyphen logdb true spelling. Now I'm saying that just restore it only till 2. Now it restored only 2 here. Now after 2, if I want to restore 3, I have to come here and say 3. Or I can say next. Next is a keyword, right? Like I said here at 1, I am at a cross junction. I'm not sure whether I go to 4 or whether I have to go to 2. So when I am in such confusion, I would simply say next. let the system pick it up by default. Or next will restore only the next increment. But if I have 10 such next increments, I can simply say rest. Just restore rest of the increments. If it is 3, restore 3. If it is 4, 5, 6, 7, it restores all the rest of the increments. Okay. So it's just damn simple restores. Yeah. Because your transaction
You're
logs are out
using
of the picture.
question. So when you're using increment, it's only going to restore only that increment, correct? Number. It's not going to.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It's going to increment that restore, but to restore that increment, you might have already restored the previous increments for this.
Correct. So if you want to restore only 3, then you should have already restored up to 2, right?
Or you can directly give 3 so that it will restore 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Let's do that. Since you asked, just I want to restore it till 3. Let's give it a different database, testdb5. It restored 1. After that it did 2. After that it did 3. 1 here, 1 full, 2 differential, 3 differential. So the point is we can stop at a specific point, full or a cumulative or a differential. Sounds good so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right, that is the first objective of this session. Help us understand DB level backups and restores. And in the exercise that I am going to put it there in the drive, there is an exercise on table level restore as well. If somebody just dropped a table, you can just get the table, only the table in place. You don't have to restore that somewhere and bring it here. You can do in place table level. Okay.
And database can be online, right?
Yes, it has no impact on the availability except the table. Okay.
Ravi, a quick question. When you give the ng backup hyphen history, it is showing the backup log file, right? Can you open that log file once?
Okay.
No.
I did it once. So these log files are available. Pick up any log file. Let's go to the latest log file.
Mhm,
Under ngkit log backup server. We have
mhm.
this log file. Yes.
Okay. So
Pretty
it will
much.
write up all information if we give -v option. Otherwise, it will not give all the
No,
info.
no. Whether you give option -v or not, it will still write into a log file. But -v is only you can see it on the screen.
Okay.
That's just for verbose. It will still write it in the background.
Thank
Okay. All right. Now the next one is taking the host level backups. Right. Now to understand why do we need a host level backups, if I just take a simple twin fin, we are talking about a data slices or disks on the top. I'm talking about a host. I'm talking about S blades, right? With this ng backup and ng restore, you are taking a backup of database table from these and metadata from here, so that you are safeguarded if two related disks fail at the same time. I told you that there is a mirroring, RAID level mirroring concept, and each disk is mirror of at least one other disk. What if both primary and backup fail at the same time? Right? You have to depend upon these backups. But there is also a scenario, right? What if host level crash happens? Because our metadata is stored at a host. These disks might be intact. Okay, let's say these disks are intact, but what if host crashes? Host 1 crashed. Immediately host 2 also crashed. It's not just a crash that, but you cannot reboot it. The hard disks failed, right? That means whatever you have, the metadata within this base is gone, corrupted, right? So that's why it is advisable to take host level backups on not every day, but on a frequent basis. Let's like once in a week. Generally, we take host level backups on the weekend. Okay. Now the command to do that is ng host backup. Very simple. It has no options. Very simple. Ng host backup, and you specify the file name where you want to take the backup. For example, ng host backup, temp backups, host backup underscore 1st October gz. But the interesting thing to note here is whenever you take a host level backup, it takes host from online status to a paused state. It is going to pause your entire Netezza system. Like I said, pause is not a outage,
So I
right?
think it's going to put a marker on that, right?
Yeah, pause is like your current transactions will complete, but incoming transactions will be queued. Right now, it's resuming the system. You see the status changed. That means when it pauses it, that means you have full control. It's a checkpoint on a host. Till that point, it just copied. All it does is, if you extract this, if you ungunzip and untar this, let's do this unzip. So it's pretty much the backup of this ng directory, ng data directory. If for some reason your host both disks crashes, that's when you come to this.
Usually this is like a PG based backup. So he's doing a
From
complete data level backup, data directory backup, right?
directory backup, yes, yes. And a
So the
Postgres
location of that is in this case NZ data, right?
yeah, it's pretty much backing up this data directory. You see,
Yeah.
I'm just extracting that for our benefit.
Uh-huh.
So it's backing up this pretty much data directory. Yeah,
Data directory, correct.
that's the only thing gets changed with Netezza
Yeah,
operations.
correct. NG host backup.
Yeah, host backup.
So here it is like a cold backup. So anything now once you restore it, it is going to restore everything, including config files, everything.
Everything. but only at a metadata level. Okay, it's not going to touch anything on the disks. Actual insert data, it's not going to touch. It's only going to touch metadata.
Only metadata.
Only metadata. So sometimes you might see a situation where your data in the disks or data slices is advanced than your table definitions here. For example, a crash happened now. Okay, the host crashes now, right? But you have a new table. Assume this. Okay, let me put some timeline. Right now my time is 23:43. Okay, crash happened. Now before crash, around 23, new table test 1 is created and 10 records inserted. Okay, around 22 hours you have taken host level data backup. Now if host got crashed here, right, what is the obvious choice we have? You have to restore from backup taken on 10 p.m. But when you take restore backup from 10, this 10 has no idea of test1 table because test1 table created after the backup, right? You see the conflict we are getting here? We have to restore this 10, but we don't have test1 here. Test1 metadata. But however, on the top here, I still have a data of 10 rows of this guy, right? But system is capable to detect them as dead rows, and they will be cleaned up when you do groom. Yeah, but this been taken care automatically. So just one possible scenario where my data is little advanced than my metadata in case of crashes. So to do the host level, yeah, sorry, Raj, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I might be missed it. So when after the host backup, the table has created, right? So if
Right.
we will be missing the table even, I mean, if we restore the backup from 10 p.m. So we need to recreate the transaction, or
Yeah, you have to recreate the transaction. Now, how come this table gets created? It has to be through a change. So as part of a change request or an ETL process, this table got created and some data is inserted. Maybe a full load happened on this table. So since we are missing this after 23:43, after restore, you have to redo these operations.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. But how often those happen are very, 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 very rare. Unless you become very unlucky. Very rare, maybe couple of years, not even couple of years, you see something like that. Because to host disks crashing, first of all, host itself crashing is a big thing. On top of it, disk crashing, on top of it, other disk also crashing, and other host is also going away. Very rare situation. But still, we have to prepare for worst case, so that's why we still take host level backups using ng backup on a weekly basis. So once what I did was I think it was pretty like almost a decade back. We had this TwinFin box in a data center, and we have this Mustang box, which is version 4, and TwinFin was a version 6. Yeah, it was. We got version 7 because we kind of delayed it a little. I took a backup of Mustang, and while copying that backup, I did not find enough space on the new box, so I kept that backup on ng file system. Right? I was exploring ng host backup. It's not at all completing. So what happens is anything you write in ng file system, anything new, it will back up. So it is trying to back up even the backup I kept it there, the file system data I kept it there. So the standard is you should not keep anything in ng folder at all. On the host itself, you might see 3 terabyte if it is a full box of file system, but still you don't use that for any of your personal work. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, moving on. The third section of this presentation is taking a schema level backups or a user level backups. So that can be done using these -globals options. Let me show you. So let's say ng backup verbose testdb -dir temp backups -globals. Sorry, globals is irrespective of database, right? Globals is at a high level. Now let's go ahead and see what comes as part of these globals. Now, the interesting thing you see is temp backups is the same directory. Within it, it created Netezza with capital N, almost all we already have the host name, but here you see a directory called system, right? System is the default database that you get, right? Whatever you do it in system will be stored under this backup. That's why I said the other day, if you log into system and grant somebody accesses, they are global. Now if you go to one here, you see users. It's a metadata. So whatever the privileges you have, what are the privileges you have, who is a grantee, who is a grantor in a system database. So this comes under security. We'll talk about this category, cohort, and level. Yeah. So when you are pretty much kind of doing a refresh from production to non-production, right? So if you don't have a database there, first it's advisable to restore users, right? Otherwise, once you restore the database on the dev, the users might complain that, oh, we don't have the access ID. My logins are not working. I have a user in production, but that did not replicate it to non-prod. I have some permissions missing. That's not a small mess, man. So that's going to be a pain. So we need to make sure that globals are restored first, then only a specific database. That's the third section of this presentation.
Is it all for today?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's all I got today.
Okay.
Just looking at the document. Yeah, these documents I'll keep it there if not done. So this same exercises we talk about there,
All right.
taking full backup and incremental globals and taking schema level backup.
Okay.
All right, Ravi. Get some rest. We'll talk tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks again.
thanks, Ram. Yeah.
Have a wonderful
Okay.
evening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yep. Yeah. Get well soon. Yeah.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.